Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something uh, pretty common, how to really learn English, and maybe even more crucial, how to actually enjoy it while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever felt, stuck, like you're putting in the hours but just not getting fluent, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to cut through some of the myths, maybe challenge a few common ideas, and give you practical stuff, enjoyable strategies, really, to speed things up, to get you communicating confidently.
It's a feeling so many people recognize, isn't it? You might study for ages, you get the grammar, but then actually speaking, your confidence just vanishes.
Right.
Or you're trying to memorize these huge lists of words and they just don't stick. So yeah, this deep dive, it's designed to hit those frustrations head on. We're aiming for actionable insights you can use, like today.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Where do we even begin? Well, the sources we looked at point to something really foundational, maybe even a bit unexpected. Before you touch a textbook, before you download any app, the biggest thing seems to be understanding your personal why. So I guess the question for you listening is, what's your real reason? What's driving you to learn English?
It's fascinating, actually, how often people skip this. And that's probably why learning can get frustrating, right? It starts to feel like a chore.
Yeah, I can see that.
But think about it. Maybe you want to absolutely nail that job interview, or travel somewhere new and really connect with people, or just watch your favorite shows without needing subtitles, understanding everything.
Or speak up in meetings.
Exactly. Speak confidently in professional settings. Finding that specific personal reason. It's not just, a nice to have, it's the fuel. It keeps you going when things inevitably get a bit tough.
That makes so much sense. It changes it from something you have to do to something that leads to a future you want.
Yeah.
So defining that why isn't just step one. It's like the anchor for the whole journey, right? Keeps you on track and makes it more enjoyable.
Precisely. It's the foundation.
Okay, so you've got your why. It's clear. How do you actually start? Where do you go from there? And this brings us to a really common myth we need to bust.
Yes. The grammar trap.
Exactly. This idea that you need perfect grammar before you even try to speak. The sources we looked at are pretty clear. That's just not the best way to go about it.
Right. And this is where we really shift focus. It comes down to the core of language. Listening and speaking. It sounds simple, but the advice is basically listen to English every single day.
Every day.
Every day. Immerse yourself. Think podcasts, YouTube videos about stuff you actually like. Even cartoons can be great.
Cartoons? Really?
Yeah. The language is often simpler, clearer. The tip is to start with subtitles if you need them, get comfortable, but then, and this is key, gradually turn them off. And try to mimic what you hear.
Mimic.
Like, repeat it out loud. Exactly. Repeat the sounds, the rhythm, the intonation. It's like you're training your mouth and your brain at the same time. You're building those pathways for speaking naturally, not just passively listening.
I've definitely seen that work. People start with shows, subtitles on, just absorbing, but then, turning them off and actually trying to say what was just said. That seems to be where the real shift happens. Active listening becoming active practice.
Absolutely. And then for the speaking part itself, the advice is start simple. Really simple. Don't get hung up on complexity.
Like what kind of simple?
Well, the sources give examples like just saying, I am drinking water, or looking outside, it is raining today, or pointing, this is my notebook. Basic, everyday observations.
Okay.
And the most important thing here, maybe the most liberating, making mistakes is completely okay. In fact, it's essential. It's how you learn. Think of mistakes as little guides pointing you in the right direction.
Okay, now this next idea really caught my attention. It's almost counterintuitive. It suggests that instead of fearing mistakes, we should almost seek them out. How does that work? Because that sounds really interesting.
It's all about reframing how you see errors. Every time you make a mistake, your brain gets valuable feedback. It's not failure, it's just data, information.
Data for learning.
Exactly. The more you try, the more little adjustments your brain makes. So the more mistakes, in a way, the faster you learn. The sources suggest finding low-stakes ways to practice to build that comfort.
Like what?
Maybe speaking with a friend who's also learning, or even just talking to yourself in the mirror. Sounds a bit funny, maybe, but it works. Or recording yourself.
Oh, recording yourself. That's brave.
It can be, but it's super useful. The main point, though, is consistency. Practice consistently, even if it's just a little bit each day. That's the only real path to fluency. There's no magic bullet, just practice.
Okay, moving to another really powerful idea, almost intuitive. Learning like a child. What does that actually mean in practice? Because kids don't study grammar books, do they?
No, they absolutely don't. They just absorb it. Think about how kids learn their first language. They hear it all the time, constantly. They start repeating words, then phrases, then gradually build sentences. It's messy, imperfect, but it works.
So how do we adults copy that?
We adopt that same mindset. Use the English you do know right now, even if it's just a few words. Don't wait until you think your grammar is perfect. Just communicate. Use what you've got.
And the sources had some concrete examples for this, right? Like watching kids shows.
Yes, kids shows are great because the language is simple, repetitive, clear. Reading children's storybooks is another good one. Basic vocabulary, simple sentences. And just trying to use simple English phrases throughout your day.
Makes sense. Keep it simple. Keep it practical.
And here's a really practical tip linked to that. When you learn a new word, really try to use it in a sentence that same day.
Oh, okay. Use it or lose it, kind of.
Sort of. It's about active application.
Yeah.
It stops the word just being something you recognize and makes it part of your active, usable vocabulary. That's how you truly integrate new words.
Right. Ready for what feels like a real game changer? This next one is about what's happening inside your head. Training your mind to actually think in English.
Ah, yes. This is huge.
The sources point out that constantly translating in your head, thinking in your native language, then converting to English, it really slows you down, doesn't it?
Massively. It creates this awkward lag. So the goal is to bypass that. If we think about the bigger picture, it's about getting that smooth, natural flow.
So instead of thinking, say, main panipi rahahun, and then translating.
You just think, I am drinking water directly. The advice is to start really small with this.
How small?
Just simple observational thoughts. Look around you, think in English, the sky is blue, my chair is red, or describe how you feel. I feel tired. I am happy. Just little internal monologues.
And that actually helps, just those little thoughts.
Absolutely. Even just 5 or 10 minutes of consciously doing that each day starts training your brain. It builds the habit.
Yeah.
Over time, it leads to much faster, more natural sounding speech. It's one of those quiet habits with big results down the line.
Okay, good tip. Now, before we wrap things up, let's quickly touch on some common traps. Things that people often do that actually slow down their progress, even if they mean well.
Yeah, the sources highlighted a few key ones. First, trying to memorize massive lists of words all at once.
Right, like hundreds of flashcards.
Exactly. You usually leads to burnout, and you don't really retain them well. It's much better, the sources say, to learn fewer words, but learn them deeply. Use them actively.
Okay.
What else? Second big one. Not speaking because you're afraid of making mistakes. This holds so many people back.
The fear factor.
It's huge. You have to remember, nobody speaks perfectly, especially when learning. And honestly, most people aren't judging you. They're usually just impressed you're trying. And lastly, comparing your progress to other people's.
Oh, yeah, that's a killer.
It really is. Everyone's journey is different. Different starting points, different amounts of time, different aptitudes. The only useful comparison is you today versus you yesterday or last week. Measure your own progress.
Okay, so bringing all this together,
Right.
it feels like true fluency isn't really about having perfect grammar or knowing every single word.
Not at all.
It seems to be built more on having that clear why, that motivation. Then, consistently listening and, crucially speaking, adopting that sort of childlike approach, just using the language you have, training yourself to think in English directly, and maybe the biggest one, just being okay with making mistakes and seeing them as learning opportunities.
That sums it up perfectly. And it raises that question, doesn't it? What is fluency then?
Right. If not perfection, what is it?
Well, the sources tend to define it as this mix of confidence, just being willing to speak consistency in your practice, and basically effective communication. Can you get your point across?
Okay, so it's more functional.
Exactly. And the really encouraging thing is, even a small amount of daily practice, done consistently, it can lead to noticeable improvements surprisingly quickly, like in just a few weeks. Imagine a few months.
That's really motivating. And maybe a final thought to leave people with, something empowering.
Consider this. You probably already know more English than you think you do.
Oh.
Think about all the words you see online, in movies, song lyrics, brand names. English is everywhere. You have a base. Trust that existing knowledge. Use these strategies we talked about to build on it, and just keep going. Keep practicing with confidence. You really can do this.
Fantastic advice. Trust what you know, find your why, practice daily, think in English, and don't fear the mistakes. You've got this.